We are live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Committee of the Whole operations for the month of September. And I'd ask that you're able to rise as you're able for the reading of the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who've served our community, who are no longer with us, so we can continue to do the work that we must in their memory. Please be seated. So, Madam Deputy Clerk, I understand that roll call has already been taken.
Yes, it has.
Okay. So members, does anybody need to declare a pecuniary interest regarding any item that's on tonight's agenda? Please physically raise your hand. Not seeing any raised hands. So I'd ask members if there are any items that don't have a long agenda tonight, but are there any items that you would like separated for discussion purposes? Yes, Councillor Scully.
I'm going to separate the one item on our agenda, which is the reestablishment of the Joint City County Shared Services Committee.
All right. So that then leaves one item that has not been said for discussion purposes, and that is the minutes. So Councillor McCreary, I understand you've got that resolution.
I sure have, Mayor, and Councillor Martin is my seconder. And this reads as follows: that the separation of items for consideration and consent items for discussion purposes moved and seconded, as I said, and that all items contained for consideration, consent 6.1 and 6.2, not separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Yeah, that'd actually be only 6.2.
I just read them as I get them, Mayor.
All right, well, it's 6.2. So, Madam Deputy Clerk, if you please call the vote on that.
Sorry, we're just waiting for Councillor Sless. If you're agreeable,
Sorry,
I
I'm
can.
not getting the option to vote, but I'm in favor.
Thank you. Thank you. All items not separated for discussion purposes carried unanimously on a recorded vote. All those voting in favor are Mayor Davis, Councillor Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, and Sokoli.
All right, we have only one item for presentation on tonight's agenda, and that is Ian Miles, who is President and CEO of Grandbridge Energy, and Sarah Hughes, the VP of Corporate Services and Chief Financial Officer at Grandbridge Energy. And they're going to be joining us virtually. So, Madam Deputy Clerk, if you could bring them in.
They are on their way.
So I want to welcome, first of all, you, Ian Miles, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Grandbridge Energy that we have a shareholding interest in as a city, and Sarah Hughes. So you'll have 10 minutes inclusive of questions for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Davis. I will try to breeze through this quickly and allow some time for questions. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to give you an update on how things have been going really since the merger. If you could go to the next slide, please. So what I'm going to cover tonight is a quick recap of 2022, talk about some dividends that were paid out to shareholders in 2023, very high level overview of our new strategic framework, and also an update of some things that have happened in 2023. Next slide, please. So a quick overview of just for the lay of the land here. We've got Grandbridge Corporation, which is a holding company, the big circle kind of in the middle. The three shareholders across the top, Cambridge, Brantford, and North Dumfries. Underneath the holding company, there's Grandbridge Energy, which is the largest portion of our business, probably in excess of 90% of our business. That's the regulated company that provides distribution of electricity to all of our customers in Cambridge, Brantford, North Dumfries, and Brant County. And then over to the left, we have a number of affiliate companies that provide services such as fiber optics, rental of hot water heaters, and energy services. I'll talk a bit more about those later. Next slide. So 2022, next slide, please. So just to remind everyone, the legal amalgamation of Brantford Power and Energy Plus occurred on May 2nd of 2022. And some of the highlights from 2022 were a fairly extensive corporate rebranding that we did to create the Grandbridge name. And that was rolled out. We spent a fair bit of time developing our vision, mission, and strategic plan. And we did that with a lot of consultation with our shareholders, as well as our boards of directors. It was really important to do this early on in the merger to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're all going in the same direction. We also restructured the financing, reestablished our credit rating. We've moved some various departments around between our new expanded facilities at Glebe Street in Cambridge, as well as 150 Savannah Oaks. And we consolidated our IT infrastructure. Next slide, please. Financial performance. I'm not going to go through all the numbers on this slide, but suffice it to say, if you look at the net income, $10.7 million versus our budget was $7.8 million. Now, this was for an 8-month period from May the 2nd until the end of last year. So we were very pleased with our first out of the gate financial performance. Next slide, please. And as a result of that performance, we were able to pay out a total of nearly $5.7 million in dividends last year. And you can see the different allocations to the 3 shareholders there on the slide. And I just want to compare that back to prior to the merger being completed, there was a business case that was developed, which included a projection of financial metrics, including dividends. And for the first year of that business case, the projection was actually $5.7 million. Now, that was based on a full year of operations. We were able to deliver the $5.7 million on just 8 months of operations because the merger closed in May. So we were very pleased with that result as well. Next slide, please. One of our core values as a company, both companies really that came to the merger, is supporting our communities and giving back. We encourage our employees through a variety of programs to participate on a volunteer basis in different community events. We spend a lot of time fundraising, both from a corporate perspective as well as an employee perspective. I'm not going to go through the full list here, but you can see these are items that really just pertain to the Brantford community. We do this for all the communities that we serve. Next slide, please. So going into the new strategic framework that we've developed, go to the next slide, please. Just a little bit of context for it first. As you're all very well aware, that the federal and municipal governments and provincial as well have all set emission reduction targets, long-term targets over the next 20 to 30 years. And yourselves included as one of our shareholders. The reality is the only way to achieve those targets as a society is through significant electrification. And that will be used to displace fossil fuels that are used for transportation and heating. Primarily, those are 2 of the biggest ones. But that's going to have a significant impact on our grid. We expect that the demand for electricity is going to rise to a factor of 2 to 3 times where it is today. And that's going to require significant investments over the coming decades, and it's going to change the way we do business as a utility. Next slide, please. So that's just a little bit of context to the plan. Another little bit of context to our framework was we considered some of the key risks and opportunities that are in front of us today. The first one being delivering on the merger business case that supported the transaction. People and culture, bringing two organizations together. It's important that we get that right. Climate change, I touched upon. Emerging technologies, I've also touched upon. Growing EVs and storage technologies will impact us, as will policy and regulatory changes. We also have some great opportunities ahead of us. Our fiber optics business, Net Optics, is in the process of expanding into Cambridge as we speak. Very successful in the city of Brantford, and we hope to replicate that in the city of Cambridge. There's also a paramedic facility that we are working on together with Brant County, which will support, it'll be a new facility co-located at our 150 Savannah Oaks property, which will support the paramedics throughout Brant County as well as the city of Brantford. So that's an exciting opportunity for us as well. Next slide. You can go ahead to the next one. So the framework that we've developed has 6 pillars, as we call them. The first one being ensuring a safe work environment. That's a given in our business, given the risks that are associated with not only to the public, but to our employees as well. Building a target culture. This one came from our groups of employees who said it's important that as we create a new company, we get the culture right. So we've invested in some programs to help achieve that. Evolving through innovation kind of speaks to the changes that we need to get ready for to handle this coming significant increase in demand for our product. Maximizing shareholder value kind of speaks to achieving the synergy targets and delivering on the business case for the merger. And then enabling community ambitions recognizes that we have a role to play in helping our communities achieve this energy transition and electrification that's expected to happen in the coming decades. And the last one is around growing the company. And we just, through the merger, we grew the company quite a bit overnight. But I think we all recognize that as this sector continues to evolve and grow, we're probably not as large as we need to be in the long term. So we will be looking for strategic opportunities to continue to grow our business as well. Next slide, please. We also developed a strategic framework for our non-regulated affiliates, Net Optics and Enershore. And it has 4 pillars, and it's focused on employees as well. Also focused on growth, tremendous opportunities to build on the success of that Net Optics and Enershore both achieved in Brantford and bring those capabilities to the rest of our territory as well, which includes Cambridge and North Dumfries and Brant County. Next slide, please. Some quick updates on 2023. Next slide. So in 2023, at Grandbridge Energy, the utility, we've really focused on integrating our back office systems from the 2 entities that merged. So the first big one was our financial system, which we successfully integrated on June 1st of this year. Another big one is our customer information and billing system, and that's on target to be fully implemented by the first quarter of 2024. We're also building a new state-of-the-art control room, which will operate the entire grid of Grandbridge throughout the entire service territory, and that's going to be located at Savannah Oaks. The construction is well underway. We hope to actually open that room or that facility in October of this year. And right on the heels of that, we plan on operating the Brantford territory on a 7/24 basis out of that facility and providing outage management, customer-facing outage management capabilities to the Brantford service territory in Q1 of next year as well. We also spent a lot of time last year negotiating new collective agreements. So we did two of them, one with IBEW and one with CUPE. IBEW is outside, CUPE is primarily inside, and both of those agreements are 4-year agreements. So it's nice to have some stability there and have that in place. On the Grandbridge solutions or non-regulated side, I mentioned before that expansion is already underway. We're starting construction of a fiber optic network in Cambridge, and we're in the process of looking to expand the channel partners to help us grow the Intershores business as well. I think I've already touched on the paramedic opportunity. And another affiliate we have, Grand River Energy Solutions, is focused on more commercial, larger type solutions for some of our larger customers, including some of our shareholders that we're in discussions with as well to help them with some electrification strategies. Net income wise, I'm pleased to report that we're already kind of well ahead of budget. Net income wise, at the end of June, we had a net income of 7.5 million against a budget of 6.2. Our budget for the entire year is 13.1. So we're well on track to either meet or exceed our budget for 2023. And I believe, next slide, I believe that is it. I'm not sure if there's any time for questions, but we're happy to take them.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Miles. We went slightly beyond the 10-minute mark, but I think it's justified given the value of the investment the city of Brantford and this community has in Grandbridge Energy. So if there are any questions, extend a little bit further so that if anybody has any questions, they can be asked. Yes, Councillor Carpenter.
The plans, have you have plans for growth in generation or being involved in generation in any way at all?
So far, if generation would fall under our non-regulated business, and we do have, I think it's about 2 or 3 megawatts of solar generation currently, and that's owned by Grand River Energy, that affiliate corporation. And we are always looking for opportunities to invest in additional generation projects as well.
And I know the province subsidizes the cost of electricity to the local homeowners and businesses. If that were to change, would that have a significant impact on you at all?
It would, well, there's a customer impact for sure if that subsidy were to go away. It doesn't have a direct impact on us because we're a distributor. We don't make any money on the cost of power itself. It's a pass through. But it would, if the subsidies were taken away, it would actually improve the business case for additional projects like solar generation. It would improve.
One final, if I may, Mr. Mayor, the infrastructure, you talked about the infrastructure needs. So where are we in relationship to other generation electrical companies for infrastructure, quality of our infrastructure and the needs for it?
I would say we are either on par or maybe slightly ahead of some of the, like when I think about the city of Toronto, I know they have a massive infrastructure.
Toronto doesn't count.
Yeah, so we have a pretty robust asset management program that we follow. It's a 10-year plan, and the unknown though is really going to be how fast this demand for additional electricity emerges, and how that translates to how quickly we're going to have to increase the capacity and get rid of some of the bottlenecks that are in our system today. The system is currently very adequate for today, I would say for the next 5 years even. And we need to do some more work to make sure that it stays that way in terms of additional studies on what's going to be required. It's early days yet, but we know that this growth is coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, thank you very much, Ian, for coming in virtually, and Sarah as well. Anyways, thank you very much to bring us up to date on this very important and significant investment, and we look forward to receiving other such positive reports in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may raise a point of order.
Yes.
The last thing we need is a code of conduct levied against the mayor because he's violated the rules of procedure by allowing this to go on beyond 10 minutes without a resolution.
Well, I should make it clear then that I did extend it because no one appeared to object. And if you want to make a retroactive motion to confirm the extension of time, I'd be happy to hear that.
No, if you've stepped in it, Mayor, you've stepped in it. I simply think that if we're going to extend the hour, it's a violation of the rules unless there's a move and second to do it, followed by a vote of majority.
Point taken. Let's move on. Thank you again very much, Ian and Sarah. Let's move on to the next
Thank you.
item, which is there are no other delegations. So we do have just one item that was separated by Councillor Sikoli. So Councillor Sikoli, actually, we don't have a mover to put this on the floor, but since you asked for it to be separated, why don't you move it and seek a seconder?
I will move this, and I believe it's going to be seconded by Councillor Martin, that the joint city-county shared services committee be reestablished with a mandate. Sorry, I'm supposed to read it, right? You want me to read it? Okay. With a mandate to continue to explore opportunities for service sharing and improvements, and to make recommendations to the two councils, both the County of Brant and the City of Brantford, and that the joint city-county shared services committee be comprised of 10 members, including 5 members of Brant County Council and 5 members, and that's 1 per ward, of Brantford City Council. And that the 5 members of the City Council be appointed to serve on the joint city-county committee to examine the services sharing will be Councillor Sikoli, Councillor Sless, Councillor McCreary, Councillor Hunt, and Councillor Samwell. That the mayor and the City of Brantford be appointed as ex officio member of the joint city-county shared services committee, and that the joint city-county shared services committee report to the Committee of Whole Operations, and that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Brant be requested to consider a similar resolution. And speaking to this, I'm quite optimistic about what could be accomplished through this cooperation with the county. And there's so many intricacies between our communities that it's nearly impossible to serve our respective communities while operating in our own individual silos. And I do have to commend the mayor. I know you did a lot of work on this, and all of the councillors that are going to step up to sit on it. I do look forward to working with the county, hopefully. And I think we can accomplish some great things, and I'm excited for what the future holds. Thanks.
So any other discussion, Councillor Hunt?
Through you to staff, this is the reestablishment of a committee. And so section F says that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Brant be requested to consider a similar resolution. So through you to staff, have we had discussions?
To you, Mr. Mayor, Brian Hutchings, CEO. Yes, there's been numerous discussions between myself and the county CEO. In fact, they will be presented almost the exact same parallel report tonight to their county, to the county council. And they'll be seeking endorsement of that as well as members there. And well, I should get an update from the CEO after this meeting.
Thank you. And just one last question. When was the last time this committee met?
Last time this committee met was in 2017. 2018, it was not renewed. The previous council of the county of Brant did not renew the shared service committee. And at this point in time, it looks like they're prepared to do that at this term of council.
Thank you.
Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you very much. Well, this term, everything old is new again. Our GMs are now commissioners again, like they were back in 03. And we've resurrected the Shared Services Committee, whose first iteration, gosh, I can't remember, probably would have been about 2010 or 2012. Councillor Carpenter was around then, Councillor Sless and Councillor Martin were around. And that initial item was created by Councillor Chambers and I, and he and I sat on the committee with the 2 mayors, and that's the genesis of the boundary adjustment came out of that committee initially. We do have a lot of stuff that we share with the committee now, or sorry, with the county now, including social services and some of our housing portfolios. City is the recipient of county ambulance service, and there's sure a heck of a lot of stuff that we can do. And I won't prejudge what may come on our agenda tonight. I would ask, though, and I should have asked staff this beforehand, there may not be anybody here who's in a position to answer. If we can tell the status of our animal control building, that was something that came out of the previous iteration of this committee, and I know staff have been working on it, and we've kind of lost track of the good work that our folks are doing. So if someone could respond to that, please.
For you, Your Worship, Michael Bradley, Commissioner of Community Development. We've met just recently as staff to try to reinvigorate that initiative, and you will be seeing a report on that probably over the next couple of months. So we are just trying to get a handle on what was decided before and how to path that out going forward.
We do have capital in 2023, I believe. Is that correct?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, we do have a approved capital budget for the project.
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to my ward mate for losing the arm wrestle that won me this seat at the committee.
Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, always a hard act to follow. Just and I thank my ward mate for stepping up as well. It was agreeable. The issue I'd like to make sure it gets brought up, but I didn't see it on the list, is that in our boundary adjustments agreement, we're obligated to provide water and sewer services to the county for their development at their request. So I would like to make sure that item gets discussed. I'd hate to see them be buying those services from somebody else and then taking us out of the equation for development in the county and the city collectively. And I like that's on the list that we're talking about our parks and our sports. I mean, there's a real opportunity there. I mean, we look at some of the sports facilities the county has. Green Lane, for example, second to none anywhere that I've seen. It's a fabulous facility. We could use some of those, and the county has a little more land than we do. So there might be an opportunity to build facilities, sports facilities in the future in the county. We don't have to say we're going to be one now, but for 50 years from now or 75 years from now, we likely will be one. And but we build in the county today will benefit our children, our grandchildren in the future. So this is always a good endeavor, and I always support this. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few words. So this is a very important initiative that Mayor Bailey and I worked on through the summer with the assistance of our CAOs. And as Mr. Hutchings indicated, a similar resolution report is being presented to county. I believe it's tonight, County Council. And the hope is they'll also be approving it and that we will as well. So, why is this an important initiative, and why is it the mayors have spent a fair bit of time on this in the last several months? It is because the hope of us who are involved in this is that it's going to create a vehicle or a procedure for the county and the city to work together much more closely in providing improved services to the residents of both the city and the county, doing it more efficiently. And some examples of that might be organic waste collection. It could well be automated speed control, delivery of water, and sanitary and stormwater services, especially in those areas that overlap between the city and the county. And my hope as well is the committee will also consider services or infrastructure that don't even exist right now. An example of that might be intercity or intercity county transit, and other things such as a truly integrated regional road system. I mean, those are just my personal hopes that these are issues the Joint Services Committee may agree that makes sense for us to tackle in a joint way. But I don't want to prejudge it because, of course, it'll be the committee itself that'll be looking at items and making recommendations to council and staff. And so, well, how will this work? Well, we saw during COVID, and especially staff saw it, because of the need to respond in a joint way to the challenges that our communities faced during COVID, it brought the staff together and the organizations and departments working together. And I think through that, staff saw the benefit of working closely with the county, and we're seeing real benefit to that. And then they began to look at how they could improve services that are done already jointly, such as social services. And you'll recall that about a year and a half ago, they presented to us a proposal to improve the management of social services through kind of a restructured board consisting of equal members of the city and county, and also reviewed some of the details of that to improve that relationship. I suspect staff wanted to do more, but the difficulty they have is they have to be sure that they have the political will to do it, because if they get too far ahead of the councils, it may be a wasted effort and in fact, may create difficulties. So that was the problem beyond moving beyond what we already have in the way of joint services. Is there a political will to do it? Kind of giving the green signal to staff to look at whatever it might be that there is a political will to do, and how to flesh that out and actually implement it, and what options might be available to both the city and the county. So what this should do is the Joint Services Committee, on recommendations of the respective councils, can hopefully provide those parameters to our staff that whatever the area is, that giving them the assurance they have the political will to investigate that service or improving that service, and that they won't later be criticized for doing that. So I think that'll create the atmosphere, the environment for us to expand the joint services we have together. And yeah, we did try this about 4 years ago, and it wasn't successful. I think because of probably a degree of lack of trust between the city and the county, which was an understandable kind of hangover from the sometimes contentious boundary negotiations of 6-7 years ago. And I think what's happened over the last 4 years, because of COVID, and also because myself and other members of the city council and city administration have made it clear to the county that we're in no way interested in talking or discussing or considering or encouraging amalgamation or merger. And I've said that repeatedly to the county, that that's not on my agenda. It won't be so long as I'm the mayor. And in fact, my argument to the county is that if we can show the province that there's more we can do together and do efficiently to improve the services for our residents and lessen the load on our taxpayers, they won't bother us. It's problem areas in the province that they focus on, like regions that are having difficulty getting along. So if we can demonstrate that we here in the city and the county can do things and do them well together, I don't ever see any prospect of there being amalgamation or merger. But more importantly, it's just doing the right thing by our residents, and for some issues that clearly need to be planned for and addressed and dealt with on a kind of a regional basis. This will give us a vehicle to move that process along. So I'm hoping this will have unanimous support. I'm very thankful for the member of each ward that stepped forward very readily tonight to volunteer to serve in this committee, because it won't necessarily be an easy committee. We're going to have to grapple with some important issues, but I think it'll be a very productive process and a benefit for all of us. Any other speakers? Seeing none, Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the vote.
I'm in favor.
Thank you. The reestablishment of the Joint City County Shared Services Committee carried unanimously on a recorded vote. All those voting in favor are Councilors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Secolia, Mayor Davis.
All right, so that's it for the consent agenda. So we do have a number of resolutions. And just a reminder that we have a new section in our procedural code, section 15.11.6. And what that says is that any resolution coming from the notice of motion process is automatically referred to the estimates process. And that if a member wants the resolution that forms the basis for their notice of motion to be considered outside the process, the mover and seconder must move for the resolution, asking council to deem the matter urgent and to have the matter dealt with outside of the budget estimates process. And that does, of course, require 2/3 vote. So with that preamble, since this is the first evening we've had this new rule take effect, we'll move to item 7.1, that the City of Brantford supporting the Brantford Red Sox team. Councillor Carpenter, I believe you want to move the resolution to have it dealt with tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought these items were in the queue beforehand, but I guess not. From the clerk tells me that that's not the case. So I'd like to move that, just a second, here we go. That section 15.11.6 of chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived to deem the item urgent in order to be considered outside the budget process is moved by myself, and I see it's got seconded by Councillor Hunt punched in there. Thought it's going to be Councillor Sullivan, but that's fine.
All right, any discussion on the urgency, the need to deal with this outside the budget process? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. Please, Madam Deputy Clerk.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you. The motion to waive the rules carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
So again, this is a new process. If you could, now that we've got the waiver, and so it can be dealt with outside the budget process, did you want to formally put this on the floor by moving and seconding and reading the resolution?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I want to move it, put it on the floor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. But I also like to defer this item at the same time as I did before. And the reason being, I like to defer the item until such time as the Brantford Red Sox can obtain a non-profit organizational status, which they're in the works of doing. So it wouldn't be prudent to deal with it tonight until we get this dealt with first. So I'm hoping we could move that as a deferral.
Right, so you've moved and Councillor Sullivan has seconded, so you've got it on the floor, and now you want to move a motion to defer it.
Yes, I want to move by myself, seconded by Councillor Sullivan, again, to defer this until such time as the Brantford Red Sox can obtain their non-profit organizational status.
Great, thank you. Any discussion as to time and place, Councillor McCreary?
Mayor, I wonder if you could back the procedural truck up a bit so that we could speak to it before the deferral.
Well, following our normal procedure, yes. If someone does want to speak to it before we get the motion to defer, that's entirely in order. So,
Thank you. And just
so
a brief comment.
I'll defer the voting. on
Councillor
that.
Carpenter's done good work on this, and we can take some additional work up with respect to our major sports team committee as well. We can have a subsequent discussion with the Red Sox and see what else the corporation may be able to do to help them out in the interim, as well as providing some financial relief once they are a NP.
Anybody else want to speak to before we have a vote on the motion deferred? Seeing no such requests, Madam Deputy Clerk, please take the vote on the motion deferred.
Yes.
Thank you, Counselor. The motion to defer carries unanimously on a recorded vote. All those councillors voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, the next resolution is one in relation to the Brantford Municipal Airport, falls into the same category that we need a resolution to deal with it tonight and to take it out of the referral to the budget estimate process. So Councillor Martin, understand you'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move, seconded by Councillor McCreary, that section 1511(6) of chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived to deem the item urgent in order to be considered outside the budget process. And speaking briefly to this, there really isn't any financial ramifications with this other than some staff time. And the sooner we can get this going, the sooner we can hopefully approach the county for some assistance financially with the airport.
All right, any other discussion regarding the urgency? Yes, Councillor McCreary.
With respect to the solidarity necessary for some of these things to advance, I'm reminded of a quote from Yogi Berra. And Yogi's favorite adages was, if you don't go to other people's funerals, don't expect them to come to yours.
I thought it was it ain't over till it's over. So with that, I'll call the vote on the motion to waive the rules.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion to waive the rules carried unanimously on a recorded vote. All those voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Celeste, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, so Councillor Martin, do you want to formally put the resolution on the floor?
Certainly. I move seconded by Councillor McCurry. Whereas the Brantford Municipal Airport provides economic benefits to both the city of Brantford and the county of Brant. And whereas the Brantford Municipal Airport is owned by the city of Brantford, but located in the county of Brant. And whereas the county of Brant receives development charges and property taxes from the Brantford Municipal Airport. And whereas the property taxes received by the county of Brant is up to 3.4 times greater than what the city receives from commercial land lease. Now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to prepare a request to be presented to the county of Brant, requesting that the county consider paying to install the infrastructure needed to allow for the development of commercial hangars on the east side of the airport property, south of runway 23. And speaking briefly to this, this area was deemed to be the area for commercial hangars in the last master plan that was done for the airport. And although the visioning statement is still in the works, I suspect it'll come up with the same recommendation because there's nothing wrong with the recommendation made in the last master plan. The idea is to keep the T hangars to the west and the commercial hangars to the east, and we've been progressing along that way for some time now. And the sad thing is that we don't receive much money from land leases. And as stated in the resolution, the county gets over 3 times more money from the property taxes than we get from the land lease. So this is a way to advance things at the airport. Right now, there's a huge demand for hangars at airports as Buttonville closes and Hamilton and Waterloo Wellington push small aviation out of their airports to make room for the bigger carriers that they're trying to attract.
Before I decide to speak to this, are you going to move a motion to defer this on terms?
I have an amendment to add to this. It's not a deferral, but it's an amendment
All right.
when appropriate.
Any discussion on this? Yes. Councilor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support this. I have a little concern with the whereas about County of Brant is up to 3.4 times taxes greater than what the city receives in commercial land lease. It's not a shot at the county at all. That's not what it's intended, but it kind of reads that way sometimes when I look at it. But it really means that we haven't got enough lease, is what I think the mover is really saying, and we need to get more lease revenue. And it's not that we're complaining about paying taxes. I'm sure that's what it's not. But and I've spoken to the mayor of the county of Brant about this issue sometimes, and other councilors in the county, and they're really good to their corporate customers, to their commercial customers that they provide services to. I don't think they're going to have much difficulty providing us services. I don't know if we'll be paying for 100%. They'll be paying for 100% of them. Usually, when we have development in the industrial areas, we make the developer pay for the services. But this is a kind of a shared thing, and I think you'll find the county very supportive in providing services. I don't know if it'll be 100%, but I think there will be services provided. I think it's a good resolution to at least ask. Thank you.
All right. Did you have your hand up?
That's what this means.
Yeah. All right. Well, your little pen, it's not necessarily an indication. Yes, you have your hand up. Councilor Scully, go ahead.
I'll bring a light up pen next time. So, this is, I think, developing our airport is extremely important. I'm always going to be supportive of that. I'm just curious, and maybe CAO Hutchings can comment to this, but we just voted to reestablish this joint services committee, and I'm wondering if this would be more appropriately discussed in collaboration with the county as opposed to handling it this way, or if you have any advice or an opinion on that.
I'm under the understanding the amendment will deal with that.
Okay.
Based that I think the mover is looking to see what would happen with the reports and as approved. So I think the amendment will deal with that.
Okay, I should have known that the mover was one step ahead of me. Thank you.
Yeah, if I might just say that I'm glad to hear there's a deferral because I realize this was drafted and put on the floor as a notice of motion before the Joint Services Initiative came forward. But I am greatly concerned that if the resolution remains as is, it doesn't set the right tone for the Joint Services Committee, because this is the kind of issue that would normally now hopefully, that we're going to be setting up a joint services committee that would come up with a joint services committee and the members likely asking staff to give them further information. So in some ways, now that we see the joint services resolution, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. Made sense at the time, given the desire to improve and develop the airport. So I'm really concerned that the kind of message this sends right off the bat, unless we appropriately amend or defer this. And depending on what the motion to defer is, I may in fact be asking the members of this committee to defeat the resolution. But I'm confident the amendment that we're about to see, which will address that issue. So, Councillor Martin, did you want to put your amendment on the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move second by Councillor McCurry that the following item be referred to staff for a complete and fulsome proposal to be presented to the airport board. And the point of this amendment is to see if the Joint Services Committee is successful. If it is, then once this is presented to the airport board will send it to the Joint Services Committee as the appropriate way to move this forward. If, however, that for some reason that committee is not formed, then the airport board will have to decide how to move this forward at that time. But this will allow staff to start working on the project and have everything ready so that when when it's presented to the board, it can then be sent to the Joint Services Committee if that is successful as I hope. With it passing unanimous here, I know it's not a problem here. Hopefully the county has the same result when they vote on it. And Councilor Carpenter touched on land leases. Well, our land leases are set based on our competitors. So we have to look at what airports around us are charging for land lease. Because if somebody's going to be putting the money into building their own hangar, they want certainty into what the land lease is going to be and various charges. So it's not something that you can just arbitrarily increase, 100, 200, 300%. So it's something that we have to remain competitive with. Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
This is on the referral, correct?
On the referral. So
Yeah.
debate, it's a motion to refer, so debates
No.
other than time and place, of course, are permitted.
So I'm a little bit confused by the chicken and egg scenario. I had thought that the airport board, having dealt with hangars and construction of hangars over, decades, would be the one coming to the city saying, this is what the costs and what are going to be. And then the city would, and then we would join. So, and in this way, it looks like we're using staff time to go to the airport board, where I always thought it would be the airport board coming to staff. Which way is this really supposed to go down? Would the airport board not have the experience in doing this already?
Yeah, I think I can answer that as a member of the airport board. But the difficulty is, like any other board, it can't direct staff to do something, right? It can recommend to council, the council directs staff to do something that then comes back to the airport commission. So I think the way this is now structured is probably appropriate, which is, do we agree by deferring this or referring it, that's what's going to happen, which, frankly, I think makes sense, because it's really hard to have a discussion about what to do at the airport with anyone until you actually know what would be involved in servicing those lands that are in the southeast part of the runway. So this would be a method of getting, I suppose, a high level overview what that would entail. Any other discussion regarding the referral? Councilor Carpenter.
Yeah, the referral really just refers it to the airport board, and if we really want it to end up going to the joint use committee, should we not just add the joint use committee in here as well, so that it's going to make to the joint use committee? So if the mover would accept that as a friendly amendment, then I would be happy. If not, then I'm happy to move that to the referral, that we include that this development be presented to the joint use committee.
Councilor Martin, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, we don't know if the joint use committee is going to be successful or not. I didn't want to presuppose that it would be successful. I certainly hope that it will. I supported it here, and I hope that the county supports it in the county. But until it's successful, we can't prejudge and send something to a committee that doesn't exist.
So I'll move that as amendment then. I hear it's not friendly, so I'll move it as amendment that it be sent to the joint use committee if successful.
So you have a seconder for that?
Point of order, is that not out of order since there is no joint use committee at this time?
No, I think the way it's been put is if successful, so. Yeah. So seconding that? Councillor Scully seconding that. Yes, Councillor McCurry on the amendment.
Sorry, Mayor, just examining to make sure I could see my hand. I will hark back to the mayor's comment about setting the, and I'll put in brackets, the right tone. I think, we're getting down to punctuation now, but I think we'd be on the side of the angels to strike the words if successful. Let's presume it is and include it if that's okay with the mover and seconder who introduced the amendment to the second degree.
Well, we have an amendment on the floor, so we have to have a vote on it. So any other discussion on it? Seeing
Sorry,
none?
Mayor, did the mover and seconder respond to my comment?
Sorry, Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, I see both of us have agreed that that's fine to take that if successful.
Excellent.
Okay, hang on, I'm confused now. So you're including the words if successful or not?
No, Councilor McCurry was suggesting that was presumptive of us, and I'm happy to take that out in order to get support. I just wanted to end up there as well as the airport board, so we know what's going to be dealt with.
Okay. All right, so we have the amendment to the deferral on the floor. Any other comment? Yeah. Councillor Caputo.
So if I can just get some clarity, what are we actually going to be voting on? The original amendment or the amendment to the amendment?
The amendment to the amendment, right there.
Thank you.
It's right there on your screen.
I mean, yes.
I'm going to, actually, I'll say my piece. I'm going to vote no. Sorry, Councillor Van Tilburg, then I want to speak after you.
Yeah, I have a problem supporting it in case there isn't a committee. That's my only thing. That's why I wanted the if successful. It only makes sense if there is no committee, we've just referred it into oblivion, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll say this, that I'm going to vote no on this. I'm going to vote no on the deferral. I'm going to vote no on the original resolution. I think it's getting too complicated. It sends the wrong message. We should be approaching joint services with a clean slate, not prejudging any issue. And I would ask council members to do that. It's too much of a risk to pass this in whatever form. We're not sure what the message will be. And I think the message will be, we're coming to joint services with a genuine, sincere intent to resolve issues jointly and not prejudging anything before. And I apologize to mover, but I realize this all came up before the joint services, but that's what I'm going to do. So unless there's any other speakers, Councilor Martin.
Yeah, I just have a question for the amendment to the amendment. What is the order of events? Does it go to the airport board to review it and make any suggested changes before it goes to the joint services? Or is it going to both simultaneously, assuming the joint services is successfully set up?
I think we'll leave that kind of as hypothetical, and so I'm going to call the
In order to
vote.
move things along, I'm happy to withdraw the amendment if the seconder is the same, agrees.
Okay, so it is seconder. Sakoli, you agree to withdraw that?
I do not.
All right, it's on the floor. Let's call the vote. This is on the amendment to the amendment, which is also including the Joint Services Committee.
I mean, yes.
So the amendment to the amendment lost on a recorded vote of 4-7. All those councillors voting in favor are councillors Sless, Carpenter, Caputo, and Sicoli. Those voting against are councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, and Mayor Davis.
All right, on the original unamended motion to defer.
still the amendment for the referral.
Yes, that's what we're voting on right now, which was, you called amendment, I called a motion to defer, so.
Can I get a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor? Were you suggesting that we vote this item down in its entirety?
In its entirety.
Thank you.
So what we have before us right now is the amendment or deferral as it was. No. Pardon me, referral. So the resolution on the floor is the motion to refer this to the airport board. All right, let's call a vote on that.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. That referral lost on a recorded vote of 4-7. All those councillors voting in favor, Councillors Slash, McCurry, Van Tilburg, Martin. Those against, Councillor Sullivan, Carpenter, Samwell, Hunt, Caputo, Secoli, and Mayor Davis.
Right on the original resolution. If you can just bring that up, please, Madam Deputy Clerk. Yeah, I see it. So we're calling the vote up. Yeah. Yes, Councilor McCurry.
I really am gonna check and see if this is this, but maybe I should use the left. Can you see that one okay, Mary?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. It looks as though this is going to go down to defeat, largely due in part to the fact that the chair of the committee is advancing a debate. I'm not sure that our rules speak to that or whether Robert's rules speak to it, but I won't pursue that. But I am going to withdraw my seconding of this so that it vacates the floor. If this is lost today, it won't be able to be reintroduced in a similar format.
Yes, Councilor Van Tilburg on a point of order. Yeah.
You can vacate as a seconder? Well, if you can somebody step in as a seconder?
They can indeed.
Then I shall.
Chairman, I'd like to withdraw the motion at this time.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to rule that the motion has withdrawn, or the resolution is withdrawn. It's been a cumbersome process, but I think that's probably the best result for tonight. Okay. All right. So now we'll move on to the next item, which is a notice of motion. And so there's one notice of motion on the agenda tonight, and I'm bringing it forward. So I'm going to ask Councillor Secoli if she would please take over the chair so I can introduce my motion.
Yeah, now that everyone's all feisty, I'd love to take the chair. Mayor Davis, it's my understanding that you have a notice of motion that you'd like to bring forward. And this resolution, you're going to ask to waive the rules, and presenting this item as a resolution tonight will require a 2/3 vote. So please state your seconder and read the motion to waive the rules.
All right. So normally we do this. I read the resolution. I think I'd prefer just to state the title of the motion to waive. You've all seen the resolution, been on the agenda. And then if that is successful, then I'll actually read the resolution to introduce it, save us a bit of time. So what I'm moving then, Chair Secoli, is that sections 15.11.5 and 15.11.6 of Chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived in order to introduce a resolution that's in the agenda in respect to the S.E. Johnson situation.
Great. Do you have
Seeking a seconder.
Councillor Carpenter has seconded that. Any discussion on the waiving of the rules? Seeing none. Oh, Counselor McCurry.
Could we have the mover speak to the immediacy?
Mayor Davis.
If I need that to explain that to you, the immediacy for this particular matter, then I think it's pretty clear that the community wants us to speak to this matter, and this provides us with a method for doing that. I think they want to hear from us sooner rather than later, not one cycle from now.
Do we have a date for the OLT hearing?
I don't know if that's appropriate at this point. We're speaking directly to waiving the rules.
We're waiving the rules because of an immediate need. I'm asking a question about the immediate need. I don't know if I shouldn't have to explain that, as the mayor just said.
I don't believe we are privy to that information at this point. CEO Hutchings, do you have anything to add to a date for the OLT?
We've been informed, clerk's office been informed that there's been a person assigned to the file, but there is no date for the OLT hearing as of yet.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the waiving of the rules?
Yeah.
Counselor Caputo.
I want everyone to support this because this is a necessity for our community. And we need to deal with it right here, right now, as we move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else to the waiving of the rules? Seeing none. Deputy Clerk, if you'd call the vote.
That's a yes, Counselor Sluss. Thank you.
I'm a yes.
The waiving of the rules carries unanimously on a recorded vote. All those voting in favor are Counselor Sullivan, Sluss, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, Mayor Davis, we've waived the rules. If you would please introduce your resolution, reading it in full and state your seconder.
All right, well, I'm seeking a seconder. I suspect I won't have any troubles getting a seconder.
We have Counselor Caputo seconding that.
Almost just going to your left. That would be the easiest way to do it. So the resolution is as follows. Whereas S.C. Johnson is one of the oldest family-owned businesses in North America with operations located in the city of Brantford since 1920. And whereas S.C. Johnson demonstrates the corporate citizenship that the city of Brantford was built on and is woven into the fabric of our community. And whereas S.C. Johnson has been an incredible contributor to the local economy, community, and well-being of citizens across the city of Brantford. And where over the last 2 decades, S.C. Johnson has contributed more than $34 million to benefit community projects that include the Brant Community Healthcare System, the S.C. Johnson Trail, and the S.C. Johnson Community Center. And whereas S.C. Johnson relocating its operations would be detrimental and have a lasting impact on our community economy. And whereas S.C. Johnson has expressed implicit concerns about the rezoning of the privately purchased property located at 58 Morrell Street. And whereas S.C. Johnson requested deferral periods during which time they made a number of attempts to find solutions with the property owner. And whereas the city also attempted to facilitate resolution to the concerns between the property owner and S.C. Johnson. And whereas in August 2023, the property owner made the decision to bypass the city planning process and apply directly to the Ontario Land Tribunal, formerly the OMB, thereby removing city council from any decision-making. And whereas the residents of the city of Brantford have clearly indicated their unwavering support for S.C. Johnson, and whereas city council did not have the opportunity to make a planning decision based on evidence, community feedback, and neighborhood context. So therefore be it resolved, 4 parts. A, that the city of Brantford and its council members express its most sincere support and appreciation to S.C. Johnson and its incredible legacy of contributing to the betterment of Brantford, its residents, and the community. B, that the Ontario Land Tribunal receive and consider the city of Brantford's input and feedback regarding the rezoning of 58 Morrell Street, and in particular, the council of the city of Brantford would not have approved the proposed rezoning of the property at 58 Morrell Street. C, that staff prepare a report for the October council cycle outlining options to support S.C. Johnson remaining in Brantford, including options for supporting the position S.C. Johnson is expected to advance to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And D, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Member of Provincial Parliament, Will Boma, and Member of Parliament, Larry Brock. If I might speak to this.
The timer has started.
All right. So, I'd like the community to know that I share their concerns, and I'm equally devastated at the prospect of S.E. Johnson leaving our community. This company, as the preamble to my resolution indicates, has a long and storied history in the city of Brantford, an exemplary employer, and just an outstanding corporate citizen. And we've come to know that in our 100-year association with S.E. Johnson. And I just wanted to clear up a few. There's been a lot of obviously information passing around the community, some of it correct, some of it not. And a couple of things I wanted to clarify what happened and to bring us to this position. So this property, 58 Morale Street, it's right beside the S.E. Johnson plant. And after the property had been listed for sale for about 9 months, and there was a builder, the Rossetti Bucci Group, that put an offer in, I believe it was in March of 2021. And an offer was obviously accepted and they purchased the property. I want to make it very clear, despite what some say, that the city of Brantford has never owned this property. This has always been privately owned, and the transaction to sell it was a private transaction that the city had no involvement in. And so once when the property was purchased, it was zoned industrial. So the owner, the new owner, then applied for a rezoning to change it to residential. And then that rezoning application, following the normal process, it came before the city's planning committee, and the planning committee is a subcommittee of this council, and it deals with, on an initial basis, rezoning applications. And so it came before us in March. The S.E. Johnson Company, being an adjoining landowner, was given notice, and they did have a representative at the March Planning Committee meeting and made a request that the matter be deferred. I think it was for 90 days to June, to allow for discussions to take place between the new property owner and S.E. Johnson. And those discussions took place. City representatives had tried to assist and facilitate that. There were several city-owned properties that we had proposed on a conceptual basis might be considered, obviously subject to council approval, for alternative locations for the builder to build their development. And neither of those locations were accepted by either S.E. Johnson or the builder. And so then it came before the committee in June. At that time, at S.E. Johnson's request, it was adjourned again. And then it was early August, the builder, as is their right under the Provincial Planning Act, which is a provincial planning document, sets out all the rules for rezoning applications all across the province. There is a provision that was brought into place about 2 years ago, where if a rezoning application has gone beyond 120 days, the owner or the applicant can ask the matter be referred to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And the Ontario Land Tribunal is what was the OMB. It has the final say on any planning matters from all across the province. So this is not something the city set up or a procedure the city developed. These are provincial rules. And so the builder did that. They filed their application with the Ontario Land Tribunal. So the effect of that was to remove the item from the city planning agenda and also from city council. So it's no longer before us for a final decision. It's going to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And as to when that will likely be, I think it's probably safe to say it's months. There is a bit of a backlog to the OLT. I don't know exactly how long it is, but recent experience suggests it's at least a number of months before the Ontario Land Tribunal would be dealing with this. So when this last week I made a commitment, a pledge to this community that and I'm hopefully this council would do whatever we can to assist S.E. Johnson, to keep S.E. Johnson in this community. And so the resolution before you is following through on that pledge. This is a resolution that I prepared with some of my staff. And obviously, one is designed to express at the first paragraph our support and appreciation for everything S.E. Johnson's done in our community. And the second provision, although the the rezoning application is no longer before us. We haven't had a chance to speak on this. And I thought it would be appropriate to allow members of council, by bringing forward the appropriate resolution, for members of council to say their piece in public, what they think about this. And this decision tonight, even if it's passed, I mean, it doesn't prevent the Ontario Land Tribunal from dealing with it. The Ontario Land Tribunal, which is usually one member appointed by the province, will make a decision. But I thought it would be important for a message to be sent to the Ontario Land Tribunal that the political element of our community, the city council, what our position is in respect to this rezoning application, asking them to consider our input. And then the third part of the resolution, we don't know for certain right now what exactly S.C. Johnson's going to do, but they do have a right to appear at the Ontario Land Tribunal as an adjoining neighboring landowner. And I'd like staff to tell us in October what our options are to help S.C. Johnson, assuming that that's what they will do. I think that I've got something else I'd like to say, but I'll stop now. I've hit the time limit and let others speak, but I put me down second.
I'll add you as a second speaker. How about that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, we have Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to second the motion that the sentiment that Mayor Davis has already spoken to. In all the different emails and communications that I've received since being on council, I have not had any topic come before me where I've gotten constituents from every ward contacting me. I've been flooded for the last week and a half. I'd had sporadic emails prior to that, but it's very clear what the residents want. And like I told them on the phone, I'm going to do everything I can from my side of things to help S.C. Johnson stay here for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an absolute necessity. SC Johnson is a world-class corporation. Not just talking something that, you know, they could be matched up against everyone else. This is a company that has a lifelong success and certainly have been instrumental in the growth, development, and what has happened in the city of Brantford. And to lose SC Johnson would be devastating. I know that Councillor Sless and I have worked consistently, continuously, trying to come up with something to be able to do that we be able to find a solution to this. And I applaud Mayor Davis for bringing this forward today with the ability to pressure on the tribunal to let them know that although we are building homes quicker and faster, we cannot build enough homes when we take away an organization such as SC Johnson, who is so vital to our city. Developments come and go, but manufacturing and businesses such as this, they're far and few between. And we need to do everything within our power, and to also have involvement from our MPP and MP is also crucial for the success of this to go forward. So I hope that everyone supports this tonight and certainly move forward to ensure that SC Johnson will stay in the city of Brantford for the next 103 years.
Thank you, Councillor Caputo. We have Councillor Carpenter up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of councils ago, I sat on a committee. Now the mayor of Aurora was chairing a committee. We were trying to eliminate the OMB. And so council made decisions what was best for their community. The mayor of the day at that time made sure that I had to step off that committee. So I did. I wasn't allowed to go any further because I was representing myself, but it was seen as representing the city. Secondly, I brought a resolution to council some time ago that tried to eliminate the OLT so that decisions could be made local. And that didn't happen. On the June 15th meeting, let me start back. The first public meeting on this was March 2022, was when the public became aware of the developer wanting to buy this property. So we knew there was an issue here. SC Johnson's came to us when it came to the March meeting of 2023, raising their concerns. They weren't the only ones. There's 3 industries that raised concerns here about this development being close to their area. I know what this is like because I've got Mission Estates right next to an industrial area. Back then, it wasn't my ward then, but the councillors of the day decided that should be residential. And I've been dealing with those kinds of problems from those industries and those residents for some time, try and mitigate I'm still, Councilor Hunt and I are still trying to make what was an industrial area, residential area that's pushed into an industrial area to make it cohesive. So on the June 15th meeting, I voted against the deferral because we were already 90 days in. The next deferral was going to push us beyond 120 days and give the developer the opportunity to go directly to the OLT. Now, that's where we are now. They're at the OLT. This is in Will Boma's hand and the Premier's hands. It's at the provincial government's hands to deal with this issue now. The province is pushing us to move development faster and quicker. And in fact, we won't even be holding public meetings except for the planning meetings. The ward meetings are gone as of July 1st, unless of course the developer wants one, but it's not mandatory anymore. So that's gone too. So the intent for the provincial government was to build homes as fast as they can. I understand that was the intent. But here's some of the fallout of this is that things go directly to the OLT, and now it's in the province's hands. So what I really congratulate you, Mr. Mayor, bringing this resolution forward, because there was a lot of misinformation. The public thought somehow that we had made a decision on it. And I had so much information from the public, I had to go back and rewatch the YouTube planning committee meetings that I partaked in and look at the minutes of the meetings for the deferrals to say, we didn't deal with this. We never got to deal with this. In fact, it was supposed to be on the August 17th agenda, and it didn't show up there because the proponent went directly to the OLT. So planning committee or council did not have an ability to deal with this other than the deferrals, which put us past 120 days. So we need to make sure we got that warning to our planning department. We need to have that warning if we're doing deferrals in the future. If we're getting close to 120 days, we need to know that so we know what our abilities are. But I agree with this whole resolution wholeheartedly. We need to say to the provincial government, is our community. We should be having to say what our community looks like, not the provincial government because they're in a hurry. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Samwell.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm pleased to be supporting this tonight to reaffirm how important SC Johnson is to our community. A lot of things that are important about SC Johnson were mentioned in the motion or in the resolution, sorry, but I just wanted to mention some of the little things that people probably haven't heard, like after the ice jam that flooded Eagle Place and how SC Johnson took time to send staff to go door to door with the neighborhood association, giving products out to people to be able to clean their homes. So I just wanted to reaffirm what an important part of our community they really are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Samwell. We have Councillor McCreary up next.
Chair, thank you. And you're doing a wonderful job filling in for his worship, let me say. Hoping to avoid any further rulings. So, you know, we've got all the alphabet soup involved here. We've got OLTs. Thank God we haven't seen MZOs here in this community yet, but they're on the way as well. Municipalities just don't have the as of right that builders have in terms of dealing with our own issues and our own people and building our own communities. And so, you know, it's out of our hands. And I'm fully supportive of this today, but I'm not so sure that it's anything other than a protest that will fall on deaf ears, but we're going to have a go at it. You know, there's lots of talk about provincial government, talk about companies and this and that, but for me, it's all about a bunch of people that work there. And, you know, I believe there's a couple of hundred people, full-time tenured employees, subcontract employees, management staff. They make a good living there. They support their families. They pay their way in this community and pay taxes to the city of Brantford. You also have those people who also make these contributions in terms of volunteers in this community, you know, because this stuff doesn't happen on its own. SC Johnson doesn't just write a check, as Councillor Samwell says. Their people are on the ground doing work, and I know I've been involved in taking ideas to them, and you know, they do have a group that considers everything that comes through their door, and more often than not, they say yes, and they're out there helping to do the work. So it's all about the people that work there, the people that are involved in the company, and it's just so frustrating for us to as councillors to not be able to do the right thing for our community. Years ago, people used to live right next door to Cochets and right next door to Massey's, and 5-minute walk to work. And in the modern world, after planning decisions made in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and up till today, we get these clashes that are inevitable. People that move in next to the airport and then complain because the planes have to fly so low to land. Not to pound the nail too deeply, but I will support this. Owing to the time constraints, I didn't have enough time to offer some suggestions to the mayor. So the chair may come back to me and I'll offer a number of, I think, worthwhile and probably well-received amendments.
I will cycle back. We have some additional speakers in the queue. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Anytime I've talked to anybody who works or used to work for Johnson's, they say what an excellent company it is to work for. And I think it would be sad if we were to lose an employer of that caliber from our community. One of the misconceptions out there is that our strong mayor can just wave his hand and say, no, this development can't go forward. If my understanding is correct, it's the exact opposite. If this was turned down, he could say, no, as strong mayor, I say this proposal goes forward. But he has absolutely no power to deny it. So to suggest that the mayor is not doing something that he's able to is totally false. The strong mayor policy powers do not give him the power to turn down housing. It only gives him the power to ram it through, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do here in Brantford. One of the other issues for Johnson's is after 9/11, the customs hours changed at the airport. They could no longer bring their executives in early in the morning and take executives from Brantford back to their headquarters in Racine. They had to fly out of Hamilton into and out of Hamilton, which caused a bit of a problem for them. I'm kind of hopeful that this is something we've been working on for some time, and Larry Brock, our member of parliament, has been working on this. And I'm hopeful that this threat of SC Johnson's possibly leaving might give him some ammunition to take to the ministry involved and see if we can get our customs hours changed to make things a little better for SC Johnson and hopefully give them one more reason to stay in Brantford. And I'll be talking to Larry as soon as I can once this passes to stress that that's something that he can do to help make sure SC Johnson stays here. So with everybody working on this and rowing in the same direction, hopefully this protest won't fall on deaf ears in Queen's Park and that they'll actually take a look at things and give us a chance to do what's right.
Thank you. And seeing no more Councillor Van Tilburg sliding in.
I think there's John still to go. When you have an issue this important to the community, I think we were hearing the mayor lead off and the mayor ran out his time. And yet I would have been interested in hearing him continue, but we have these rules to follow. So hopefully the mayor can pick up exactly where his train of thought was. When an industry leaves, and if you've known me, I've been around a lot of industries that have left this community. They don't have to tell you. They don't need to publicly come to council to make an excuse. They just do it. More than one company, not just SC Johnson, came to our planning committee. When they say it threatens their business, it threatens the vitality of their business. When it says that they're in a global competitive market, it's going to make it more difficult for them to land contracts and business. And they're telling us councillors, many with no industrial experience, maybe hearing this for the first time, you believe them. It's that true. I made it clear at the planning committee before we mentioned deferral that I'll always be siding on the side of jobs. Developers come and developers go. Houses are built and we're left with what's left over in dealing with the dispute mechanisms. When an employer goes, it hurts a community for a significantly long time. It is painful. It is painful upon families. It causes hardships. Like, we have to avoid this. Before us are possibilities on doing so. The public did not get their opportunity to participate if they would come to the planning committee instead of going straight to the Ontario Land Tribunal. I would hope that we can get an amendment on this resolution to allow the public to have contact information, that if they can contact the city, and then we will contact them to know, let them know when that date is, so that they can express, as they would have done for us. They would have come to a planning meeting. We probably would have had a packed room in some. Once the word got out, what was at stake, and they would have their say, and I would be happy to hear it. And I would be happy to hear their words in the tribunal. So I'd like to see that added in. I like the part that we are contacting our MPP Will Booma. I'm hoping after this that we'll be able to get some statements from him on how he wishes to assist. We're all in this boat together. We're all more than willing to work together to find ways, creative ways. The city has proposed a number of different ways, but it seems to be more needed than we can do and accomplish on our own. But there are levels and activities that the provincial government can engage in that can help us find solutions, that they can be sitting at the table with us, our staff, SC Johnson's, and perhaps the developer. We have time before that land tribunal happens. There is still time to talk and have discussions. And that's why when the mayor brought this forward, not just to correct the misinformation, but to know that time is of urgency. Bringing this forward now was a smart thing to do. And I'm very glad that he's done this. I spoke with him a week or so ago saying, Mayor, you know, there's so much misinformation out there. We're all going to be on our own trying to figure it out. And quite frankly, at that time, we didn't have all the information. And once the mayor put forward some, what do we call those, notes that gave us the rundown, and I had a long conversation with Councillor Sless to get more of the background that I didn't know, to be able to feel confident to talk to our constituents who want to know what's going on, what's happening, and they really want to know what's true. So when we're able to say to them, no, the city did not own that land, that was not our land, this is a private deal, that's very important. It's very important we get the proper facts out. So as I said, first go around, we're in this together. I know Larry Brock would be more than helpful in putting his voice, but he does sit outside of government on the opposition side. Will Booma, very close friends to Doug Ford, and is in the current government that controls everything. And I'm sure we can get some visits down to the city of Brantford because that's just that important to us all. Thank you, Councillor Sokol.
Perfectly timed. Thank you. So seeing no more first-time speakers here in chambers, I'll go to Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member of the planning committee and as the ward councillor that hosts SC Johnson, I've been intimately involved in this process from the very, very beginning. And it's been, in my opinion, very frustrating. We've tried to broker deals as a city to get the two sides together. That there's been many attempts made, some of them almost outlandish, at the rate that we were bending over backwards to try and get this developer to commit to a deal that would solve this dilemma and we could move on. I find it ironic that we would have houses built in an area and people there not have a job. We're exporting jobs and bringing in houses for people that don't have jobs because the company has left. That just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I don't have a lot of faith in the tribunal. I think it's worthwhile to go and present our case in as large numbers and with as much information as we can. But to me, we need a political intervention here, and we need a political solution. And that involves upper levels of government. And I know the mayor's been speaking to our members. I've been speaking to our members as late as today. I've spoken to officials from SC Johnson who are very pleased that this is coming forward this evening. I know they're watching. And they're very appreciative of the city putting everything we have behind this initiative to make sure that they can continue to operate in our community. So I would hope that we will continue. I don't see in there, I don't even mind trying to go down outlandish channels. And Mr. Mayor, you're a lawyer, so you would know better than I, but when I spoke, as was mentioned earlier with Councillor Van Tilburg, the concept of expropriation was talked about. And I don't know the legal ramifications of that, if it's even humanly possible. I have calls into our legal department to get verification and to get information on that to see if that is another avenue that we can explore. I'd certainly be prepared to go down that road. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we all want SC Johnson to stay in our community. I don't need to enumerate the reasons why. I think they're all well known and well understood in our community. So we will continue till the very last stroke to do everything that we can that is legally and humanly possible to do as city councilors. I'm prepared to do that, and I'm sure that I'm working with 10 other people on council that are like-minded. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I thank you for bringing this forward. It did give the opportunity for members of council to kind of clear the air and let the community know where we stand as a council, and to correct a lot of the misinformation so that people understand exactly what we're up against, what we can and what we can't do. And I think that was important to get out there for people to understand what we're up against. We're as frustrated as they are, but we'll continue to work through that frustration to get a solution, and hopefully a favorable one. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I do have second speakers lined up. Councillor McCurry, did you want to bring forward? Did you want to speak first before the amendment, or save it?
Well, I definitely want to speak to it again, so I still get a chance to speak to it again after the amendments. That's fine.
Would you? Then I'll call upon second time speakers. Mayor Davis.
No, I'm quite happy to speak to it after the amendment, because I'll have that right anyways, no matter what happens. So not like I have to speak now.
Okay, very efficient of you. Councillor McCreary, you've indicated you have an amendment you'd like to bring forward.
And we should make note that that was the mayor's second speaking opportunity because he did speak. Thank you, Madam Chair, for this. I have a number of amendments moved by me and seconded by Councillor Martin. The first amendment deals with a minor wording change in clause B. And we would delete the words receive and consider, that the Ontario Land Tribunal receive and consider, deleting receive and consider, replacing with be provided with and be requested to consider. We do not resolve things for other agencies, and I think the wording is more appropriate in that respect. And perhaps the mayor might think back to what he said earlier about setting the right tone with respect to the county, and I think this sets the right tone with making a request.
I agree. So you're saying that land tribunal be requested.
We delete the words receive and consider and replace with be provided with and be requested to consider.
I'll agree to that as a friendly amendment.
And I'll send these to the clerk.
So it's friendly by the mover. Is that friendly to the seconder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number two, again, moved by me, seconded by Councillor Martin. We make a statement that this committee and this municipality have had their say. And I think to what Councillor Van Tilburg said. So that this amendment would read that the planning committee hear the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan a condominium application for 58 Morel Street. So that would send the original application to the planning committee. Although it's a moot point, it's gone to OLT. It will allow the planning committee to hear this application. Okay. It will allow the developer to come if they so choose. We'll hear from our staff, but more importantly, as Councillor Van Tilburg said, the public should have an opportunity to weigh in on this, and everybody that wants to have a say should be able to have a say on the record, as opposed to emails, Facebook, or social media. So
Can I have clarity from staff? Because we've looked at this at planning.
The report, like, would you like, the report did go to planning. It was deferred though. It wasn't dealt with. There's no decision made. It was deferred for 60 days, and it came back in June, and it was deferred another 30 days.
Okay. So that's your amendment number one. We'll
I
call it.
wasn't quite finished.
Yeah, go
actually.
ahead, continue.
So I just want to be clear with everybody that we can hold a planning hearing. We deferred it. We can bring it back on our agenda. The fact that the developer's taken it to OLT doesn't mean we can't go through our process here and have our committee pass judgment on the proposal and have the public come and sit in this room and tell us what they think, which then becomes part of our record and which we can then forward to OLT and Province of Ontario. So although it has no legal standing, it does have standing for us and it has standing for the committee. And I think it's important that we actually do refuse the application here. So that's my comments, Madam Chair.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
It's friendly to the mover. Is it friendly to the seconder? Any objections? Counselor Carpenter?
I'm not objecting, but I'd like a ruling from our, before it gets to council, from our legal department, whether we're able to do this or not. I'd like to do it, but I want to make sure we can legally do it.
I personally share some similar concerns on that. So is there anyone here who can comment to that?
I hope you don't have my clock running.
I don't.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, can you please repeat the question? Just Mr. Hutchings and I were discussing it.
Well, Councillor McCurry's brought forth an amendment that suggests that as a symbolic gesture that we bring this
Chair, sorry,
application
that's not an accurate representation.
that's not an act.
No, it's not an accurate
You would
representation.
like to hear this at planning and give the public an opportunity to comment to it and to have them present to us. Is that accurate?
What the amendment states is that we hear the zoning, but the planning committee hears the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan a condominium application for 58 Morel Street.
So because it's already gone to OLT, it would be more of a symbolic gesture. So could you comment to whether or not we can do that?
I think it's Brian Hutchings, CEO. Sorry, Mr. Bradley and I were discussing this over there, and I apologize for him missing the question. We will need to confer with planning staff and legal staff to see if this can be done. And we do not have an answer for you this time. It's a very technical question with the Planning Act, so we would have to confer with those two sources, Madam Chair.
Okay. Would you like to make any adjustments?
So that has been accepted as friendly though.
Okay.
Yeah, and the understanding we'll get it information prior to council.
So if we are able to do so, we will do so. That's been accepted as friendly and I don't see any. Are you objecting to it?
I want to speak to it.
I believe I still have the floor.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll get to speakers as long as anybody does not object to this being friendly, then we will move forward as the friendly amendment. And seeing no objections there. We are moving to, are you finished, McCurry? Did you have anything else to add?
Sokoli, no, I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then we'll move forward to second time speakers and I have Mayor David.
Sorry, your question was, are you finished?
Oh,
And I
you
said,
weren't
no, I
done.
am not.
Oh, I
Yes.
apologize. I misheard.
No
you.
need to
You
apologize.
still have the floor.
No need to, at least you saw my hand. Thank you. So the other addition that I would like to make, again, seconded by Councillor Martin, is an addition to C. C says that staff are going to prepare a report for us for the October council cycle, including options to support the company and, the position at the OLT and so on. Nothing engenders support better than evidence-based decision-making. So I would like to propose that the amendment read as follows, that in addition to what C speaks to, that staff prepare a summary of SC Johnson employment statistics, including the number of full-time and contract employees, their estimated annual payroll. Number two, a summary of their staff volunteer participation in community activities. And lastly, the taxes paid by SC Johnson to the city of Brantford. And I think these are all evidence-based proofs that we should make public. SC Johnson can provide all this info, and that should be part of the record that goes to OLT and goes to Province of Ontario to show exactly what kind of a contribution they make, not only in terms of their corporate support of charities, but in terms of what they produce here, in terms of money that goes into people's pockets and money that goes into the city of Brantford. So that's that amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Deputy Clerk, do you have that?
I'll be sending them electronically in a minute.
Are you able to?
Oh, I'm
forward
sorry. Sure.
Them now?
Yeah.
And then I can share them on the screen?
Yeah.
Counselor McCreary, do you have additional amendments? Perhaps we can send them forward together.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Can we deal with one amendment at a time?
Yeah.
We will. I just want to ensure that our clerk has the information in advance so that we can be efficient here.
My apologies. I only work this machine one finger at a time.
Point of order, do we have amendment on the floor then?
Yes.
We have one and there are more coming, which I'm
Okay.
hoping to deal with.
So we can, maybe if Councilor McCreary turns his mic off, we can speak to the amendment then?
Let's go one amendment at a time. So
Thank
I
you.
have speakers to the amendment. I had Counselor Hunt, were you hoping to speak to the amendment or as a first-time speaker to?
First-time speaker to the resolution.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to hold because we're speaking to the amendment right now. Okay. So I have Counselor Carpenter speaking to the amendment.
Thank you. Just speaking to the amendment that's on the floor, it only speaks to SC Johnson. There was 3 industries that raised concerns, so the information, the data should include all 3 industries coming forward that Councilor McCreary's put in his amendment. If he can do that, then I can support the amendment.
Okay. Any other speakers to the amendment?
Well, what he's asking for is SC Johnson's data, which is good. But there were 3 industries that raised concerns about this, and I think the 3 industries would add more powder to our fight with the OLT about why it's important to support the industries in the area.
Are you suggesting an amendment to the amendment?
I'm hoping it can be friendly to add the information data from all 3 industries that had raised a concern.
I'm not seeing that it is friendly, so would you like to put that on the floor?
And we're going to get this real convoluted if keep adding amendments to amendments. So I'll just leave it out then if they're not looking for the information. You don't want the
Sure.
information. We don't want the information.
Looking forward to polishing my governance skills here, if you're interested in that. No? Okay.
Through the chair, I would recommend that we deal with the first amendment now. We can put that on the floor and go to a vote. And the first amendment reads as follows, that the planning committee hear the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of condominium application for 58 Morales Street. And that will be upon providing legal advice prior to council.
Sorry, was that not a friendly amendment?
Yeah, that was.
That was
That one was
friendly.
friendly. Okay,
Thank you.
perfect.
So the amendment on the floor currently, do you have that to put up?
Yes, I can share that on the screen now.
Okay, and I do have Counselor Sless waiting to speak to it, but I'm gonna make sure it's on the screen before so we're all on the same page here. So the amendment that we're currently speaking to is the addition to point C, that staff prepare a summary of SC Johnson employment statistics, including a number of full-time and contract employees and their established annual payroll, and a summary of SC Johnson's staff volunteer participation in community activities and the taxes paid to the city of Brantford. That staff prepare this report itemizing the chronologically of the ownership transactions and involvement of the city of Brantford involving 58 Morale Street. So I'm seeing no more speakers to the amendment in the chambers. I have, what? Oh. You've already spoke to this, Counselor McCurry. And yeah, but we're not at second time speakers yet. So I still have first time speakers here. Counselor Van Tilburg, first time speaker to the amendment.
Yeah, to the amendment, and a lot of that information used to exist in our industrial directories. And I don't know whether we still carry that stuff, but I'm sure that SC Johnson will be providing similar. I do think it's important that the other companies are acknowledged because the reason that they came to the planning meeting was because they know what happens when residential development comes through. And we know the changing demographic of Brantford. I may be industrial, but probably everybody around this council chamber and then the significant greater amount in Brantford are no longer industrial based. And when you move into a community next to an industrial place, you can make the inside as nice as possible. When you walk out the outside, you still got industry right on your outside door. And if you're not used to that, you will complain. You will complain. And they know that that's the trend. And there have been other companies mentioning similar things, not just in this city, but in other cities, because that's the nature of how people are now. And those complaints can destabilize a company, which is why they took that initiative to come. So I'd like to have the similar, because the risks are the same, because you end up with a domino situation. And that's something we want to not see. So, I mean, Hartman's is literally, they were one of the presenters that day at the planning committee meeting. And as I also want to mention that while we may be adding a planning meeting, if legally allowed, those meetings happen in the daytime at like 9 a.m. And that is very prohibitive to many people who wish to speak on this. And I believe whether we do it at a planning meeting or bring it to council, we have to make sure that people can come in the evening to speak to an issue that is vitally important to them. That 9 a.m. starts, daytime starts when everybody's working, isn't that successful. We've seen that by the number of participants throughout the last 8 months. So I know we have a lot of people like to speak to that. And I hope that we can have that date adjusted to a more public. If we can do it, perhaps it might be a one issue planning meeting or council meeting with all members of council. I'm sure we'd all be there.
Thank you, Councillor. And staying in chambers here, I have Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Deputy, can we please, do you pull up that amendment again, just on the screen? The reason I'm saying that is because I think the original motion put forth by Mayor Davis was suffice. I do believe that the change of some wording in clause B, I will support. I do believe that this amendment, which I will support if it's going to assist us, which I think it will, but I think this is something that SC Johnson needs to bring themselves to the tribunal as part of the reasoning and logic as to why this development needs to not happen. And as a friendly, I do believe that the amendment that's being brought forward in terms of having it come back to or go to the planning department for the rezoning, I think is fantastic. And the ability to have the public speak to it is even better. So I just wanted to talk that, but I'm not quite sure on this one, although I support it, but I do believe that all these numbers and everything that we're going to put in forward really is something more for SC Johnson to put forward to the tribunal than it is for us to be able to put here today.
Thank you. I have Mayor Davis speaking next.
Yeah, I'll confine my comments to the amendment. I do have some other comments I want to make the main resolution, but to the amendment, which actually there's a second part to that I don't think was read out, but I'm reading. It's something to do with staff preparing a timeline. So what this is amending is paragraph C, and paragraph C is the paragraph that asks staff to bring back to us in October a report what our options are to assist SC Johnson in advancing its position to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And so this is adding additional information that the staff report to us would contain, which on that basis, final supported, although it is a bit odd that this is really a lot of its information that would lie with SC Johnson, but I'm sure they'll be happy to provide it. So I'm going to vote for it, even though it's a little unusual, but I think if it provides more information for us to consider in October when we make a decision regarding what it is we're going to do moving forward. That's fine. It's great. And in fact, I would think that, in October, when we get that report, there may be other ideas that come forward, other things we might be able to do. But the intent of C is to get a staff report and get that process rolling. So I'll support it.
Okay, thank you. And heading out to virtual land, we have Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Your second time speaker, McCreary. So Councillor McCreary, my apologies.
Yes, Sokoli, Chair Sokoli.
Councillor Sless.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard when you're the last speaker on every item. I just had a little bit of concern. We're asking them to provide us with company information that they may or may not be comfortable doing. So if they're not comfortable doing through this format, perhaps they would do it on their own in their own package of information. But if they don't want to divulge some of that information, I would certainly be understanding of that, and I don't think it would be contravening the intent of the amendment. So I can support it, I guess under that guise, but I would just caution that there could be things that we're asking for that perhaps they would rather keep to themselves as company information, or perhaps they want to present that on behalf of themselves as opposed through a third party. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I know how hard it is going last. And we finally have Councillor McCreary, second time speaker.
Thank you, Chair Sokoli. And having heard what Councillors Carpenter and Van Tilburg said, I would like to accept Councillor Carpenter's original amendment to seek similar information from other neighboring companies. And that be provided in the report as well. And that's seconded by Councillor
This
Van
is
Tilburg.
an additional amendment to the
Correct.
amendment. Okay.
Correct.
And it's friendly. Do we have any objections? Seeing no objections to the friendly amendment, we will make that change. Any additional comments?
Can we see it on the screen?
Well, are you finished?
Yes, sorry. I wanted to also reply to a legitimate comment made by Councillor Sless. And of course, if any of these companies consider the info proprietary, we're not going to press forward, and they can provide it in some other format at some other time if they so choose.
Thank you. I have Councillor Hunt speaking to the amendment.
I'm gonna get a flag. Okay, so speaking to the amendment, I still reserve my right to speak to the original resolution. I agree that I think the amendment that says that staff prepare a summary of SC Johnson employment statistics, including payroll, I think we should be talking about potentially requesting them to provide that information, because I think it's going to be hard for our staff to prepare that information. So I don't want to wordsmith this thing to death, but I feel
Are you asking a question of staff?
I'm asking the question of staff, if they're even able to, would they be able to provide that information?
Do we have a staff person to comment to that? I
I
see.
believe Sarah Monroe from our Director of Economic Development, Tourism, Culture Initiatives.
Through the chair to Councillor Hunt, we can certainly request that from their HR department, but we do not have a record of that in our industrial directory at this time.
So now we're back to the wording of the amendment, which says that staff will prepare a summary of information that staff has just said they don't.
So one could suggest to the mover and seconder that the wording be tailored to respectfully request, to have staff respectfully request this information. Is that what you're suggesting?
Would that be considered friendly?
Councillor McCreary.
I would have thought it was implicit in the wording, but yes, that certainly would be to make it more clear for the council.
Okay. And that's okay with the seconder? Any objections? Seeing no objections from council, that is friendly. Okay. And I'm not seeing any more speakers to the amendment, so I'm going to call the vote, please. Madam Deputy Chair, or Clerk.
Thank you. I have put the amendment on the screen to read as follows, that clause C be amended to include that staff request and prepare a summary of SC Johnson and other similar neighboring companies, employment stats, including number of full-time and contract employees and their estimated annual payroll, and 2, a summary of SC Johnson and other similar companies, staff volunteer participation in community activities and taxes paid to the city of Brantford, and that staff prepare a report itemizing the chronology of the ownership transactions and involvement of the city of Brantford involving 58 Morrell Street. Open to voting.
Call the vote.
Yes.
Thank you. The amendment carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Councillors Sullivan, Slass, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion's been successfully amended once, and am I understanding correctly that you have another, Councillor McCreary?
Don't encourage me.
Oh, we're getting off lucky. Okay. Any speakers to the resolution? I have a few already lined up. I have Councillor Hunt will be speaking as a first-time speaker, and then we'll move to Mayor Davis. Thank you.
Thank you. And so through you, Madam Chair, to staff. Now that we have done so many amendments that now require planning and legal, is it possible that this could be addressed at Committee of the Whole, Planning and Administration next Tuesday?
I'm not sure I understand the question completely.
Well, one of our amendments is that the Planning Committee hear the zoning amendment and draft plan condominium application for 58 Morrell Street upon legal advice.
So it would,
So we don't know through staff, we don't know right now if we're even able to hold the planning committee hearing.
correct. So I'll have staff comment to this, but I'm under the understanding that if appropriate and deemed legal and possible, that it would then be brought forward to a planning committee, like either the next one or an upcoming planning committee. I'm not sure that it would need to be addressed at another committee of the whole, but I'm going to have staff comment to that.
Yes, I think that the meeting, the Committee of the Whole Planning Administration is next Tuesday. The reports will be due on Thursday morning at 9 and be sent out. So that would be we went to Planning Committee be next week, and it's the same timeline. So we have about 24 hours to produce this report. It would be very difficult. I think we could get something done for October, definitely, to have that in place, to have a legal opinion and all the other things requested. But to do this the next 24 hours, to do it right in the next 24 hours would be very difficult. I would suggest to council.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You still have the floor. You're good? Okay, thank you. Next we have Mayor Davis.
Yeah, just to speak to Councillor Hunt's concern, this won't be final until council approves it later in the month. So I'm sure before then we'll get some further information from staff, especially on that particular part of the resolution. But I did want to finish off dealing with some misinformation. I thank Councillor Martin for saying it. I didn't have time to say it before. Some commentators believe that I should have, as under the strong mayor legislation, issued some sort of edict prohibiting this redevelopment. In fact, Councillor Martin's correct. The strong mayor powers are actually quite limited, And the only way you can exercise them is advancing a provincial priority, there's only one right now, and that's housing. So Councilor Martin was right. The only way I could have intervened was if the planning committee and council had turned down the application. Strong mayor legislation would allow me to approve it, subject to a veto by council. That's all academic, but and also the OLT is there. Even when a strong mayor makes a decision like this, there's still a right of appeal to the OLT, the Ontario Land Tribunal. And so strong mayors who operate under the strong mayor legislation don't have this power to overrule or prohibit matters going to the OLT. I wanted to discuss very briefly what's happened since, and some have referred to the province, and it's going to be many months before it gets to the OLT, and that was a period of time that we were using at the planning committee trying to find solutions before it came back on for hearing. And I fully expect there'll be ongoing discussions, which we've committed to helping and assisting. But what's happening now is there's a scope for, I think, some provincial involvement. I have had conversations with our MPP, Will Bowman. I can't speak for him, but you can rest assured he's looking at what various options he might have and what he might be able to assist through the provincial bureaucracy. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that. In respect to the actual deferral in June, I know there's some commentators that think there was some sort of conspiracy to do that, but it was actually at the June meeting, everyone was okay with it, including SC Johnson, actually the applicant as well. I think the hope at that time was some progress had been made, and the hope was that with some additional time, 30 to 60 days, it could have been resolved. Unfortunately, the applicant exercised its right at the beginning of August. So it's happened, it's done. But I also wanted to express a lot of frustration that there have been so many changes in respect to the Planning Act that for councils, it's really quite frustrating because people believe and expect, I think reasonably, that we have some measure of control as a local council over planning decisions in our community. And it's now progressed to the point where the Ontario Land Tribunal has this power that, 4 years ago, the right to appeal to the OMB at that time, I guess, no, it was the Ontario Land Tribunal then, they were restricted. And so now the right to appeal is kind of unlimited. And also the province they're really reshaping the planning rules through what are called provincial planning policies. And, this Bill 23 is an example of that. And so the province has insisted, as is their constitutional right, that any decisions made by a city council have to be in accordance with provincial policy. And so they have a radical impact upon zoning and planning type decisions through these provincial planning policies. And, Bill 23 is an example of that, allowing for, in essence, 3 residential units on one single family lot. And that was something that cities have no say in. The province has changed the rules. And now they're doing it in advance of the goal of meeting and trying to resolve the housing crisis. And I understand that. And certainly our community is doing its part to deal with the provincial housing crisis, where we've met and exceeded our provincial housing targets. So it's not as if we're not doing, as a community, our part in helping to deal with the provincial and national housing crisis. We're doing it, and the record shows we're doing it. But the problem is you can take a policy like that too far, and then and this is an example of something I don't think we've yet seen across the province, which is these provincial planning policies and the desire to maximize the amount of residential housing in the province now coming up against industries and potentially impacting jobs. And the equation for me is, and we've seen it in years past in terms of apartment buildings next to residential areas, and provincial planning policy rules direct that should happen in order to increase intensification and meet the housing demand. But For me, the trade-off, if it comes to more homes when we're already meeting the targets that are the province has set out for us and that impacting jobs, then that's an intersection that to me, jobs and protecting jobs and great businesses with a terrific historical record should have some priority in the equation. Unfortunately, these provincial planning policies make it difficult. So as the mayor of a council that understands what people expect of us and the powers they believe we have, and to try and explain all this to them, obviously people, they're naturally skeptical, thinking that that's not the case, but it is the case. And I want to tell the public that's pretty frustrating for us because, we think we can make some pretty good decisions here. And considering all of the provincial priorities and need for housing, but at the same time, solutions that work really well for our community. We'll see how this all plays out, but there's still a further road to be traveled before this ever gets to the OLT. And hopefully with the efforts of all concerned and now other levels of government who have more resources than we do, that a solution will be found. And I remain confident that if we approach this in that spirit, which I think we do, that those solutions will be found.
Right on time. I have Councillor Sullivan next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Further to Mayor Davis's point, the premier at the Amos conference actually called Brantford the leader of the pack. We're running on target to be 176% above the expectations of the province when it comes to homes. That in mind, it shows the commitment that this council and this city has to building the homes that we need and being on board with the province's plan. That being said, I think that needs to be taken into consideration, and I hope the OLT is actually watching and seeing that we are putting the Brantford's best interests at heart and that we need to make sure that we're doing the right things for SC Johnson. We can commit to development in other areas.
Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Members who've been around a while will remember that when there's a housing development going in the area of the Gretzky Center, we registered on title that they're next to an active park. If this hadn't bypassed the planning department and gone straight to the tribunal, we would have been able to put on title a requirement that these housing units, that you're next to an industrial area, so that people will know when they're buying these homes that there is an industrial area nearby. And it takes away some of their impetus when they complain that, your complaints are weak because you knew when you bought that you were buying next to an industrial area. But because this bypasses council and goes straight to the tribunal, that's not something that we can impose on the developer. So it's unfortunate, and I forget who, but somebody was saying they voted against the last deferral at the planning committee because they wanted the planning committee to have a say in things instead of losing all say and having the tribunal dictate all the terms and conditions for this project, assuming it goes forward, which the tribunal would likely approve it. So it's something for the planning committee to consider when you are considering deferring something. You want to make sure that you're not bumping up against the time limits and losing all control and ceding all control and responsibility to the tribunal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Van Tilburg.
Councillor Martin said some very important facts of what we could do or could have done. And what gets me is that when we talk about the second deferral, where all parties were on side, basically asked us for it. We're getting along. We're making progress. Well, when somebody tells me something, I trust them. I take them at face value. I take them at their word. It is a hearing, a planning committee hearing. So when they say that, I believe them. And I also believe that when we say we're going to defer for a certain number of days, that would then return to the planning committee as it should have on August 17th, which it didn't. In my mind, that's someone pulling a fast one. Yeah, it's their right. It's their right. But if you're dealing with me face to face and other counselors, And while maybe my opinion was already established, I know not everyone else's was, but you've pulled a fast one. There are changes that can be made to the buildings. There are changes that can be done to make things more pleasing to those that may have to live in an industrial environment. Those concerns are no longer available to be brought forward. You know, when you do that, you say, hey, I want to develop. I was just pretending I cared. I don't really have the time to listen to what you have to say. I don't want to listen to the community. I simply want to go to the Ontario Land Tribunal where I will try to get my way. That's how it appears to me. And I wish it wasn't. I actually wish that it had come before us. And then we would have a debate. It might have been a different debate. We certainly would have had the public's engagement by then as the words come out, but we would have had something possibly a little different. But I think we all feel somewhat similar. And that is why when the mayor has to say, no, it wasn't a plan or a tactic. It wasn't a plan or a tactic. We did it in good faith based on the inputs of all the participants. So I just want to leave it at that. And I do judge people by their actions.
Thank you. Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Sless has been waiting in the queue. I'll wait.
If everyone's okay with going to virtual land for a moment and coming back here.
Well, their procedural bylaw does not suggest that those in virtual go last. That's just been a practice. The procedural bylaw clearly states that you speak in order, but you put your hand up.
Okay, so in keeping with the practice to which we've been working with for quite some time. Did you want to go, Councillor Carpenter?
I'll wait till Councillor Sless speaks and then I'll speak. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Sless, we're going to pass it to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't want to start an argument here. I just a couple of things that I would like to clear up. And one is, once we approve the application to allow the zoning to be changed, this was going to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Whether we deferred it and the clock ran out and they had an opportunity to go to appeal it to the OLT, or if we'd have said no, it was obviously going to be appealed to the OLT. So either way, we were ending up at the OLT. Having said that, when I look at the resolution that we'll be passing shortly, and it indicates that staff will assemble a number of options to help support the case and things that we can do to promote the fact that we want Johnson's to stay within our community. That doesn't preclude any member of council or any member of the public who has an idea, might be outlandish, but all worth considering. And I think we have to turn over every rock in the city to try and come up with a solution. So I would hope that we're not limiting ourselves by approving this and asking staff to compile a list of options. I think we should all be seeking options individually as well as collectively to find a solution to keep Johnson's in our city. So I would encourage everybody to put on your thinking cap, talk to people, continually talk to our members of the upper levels of government, and do what we have to do to get the correct outcome for this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any more second time speakers? Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're doing a fine job, by the way, in a very difficult circumstances. The key here is OLT. So I guess to say, when we make our information get together, will the plan come to us about how we will present our case to the OLT? And are we going to appeal any decision the OLT makes that's negative to our municipality?
To you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, that's when we bring back the report. So right now we have a planning report that recommends this application and the zoning. So that will be used as evidence. So if this council, after we decide to, we get legal opinion, we can have this come to planning. This council so desires not to support that opinion of our professional planners, then the council will have to get a separate planner and a separate legal to support that position.
And a budget for that.
And budget for it,
to pay
yes.
for that. Okay, I just want to make clear to the public that that's what we'll have to be eventually. We'll have to defend against our own staff's decision. We'll have to fight against that.
Yeah.
And we'll have to pay and provide the legal and the professional staff to do so. All right, thank you.
Okay. Second time speaker of Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. Well, I guess we're all in heated agreement, and thank you to the mayor for his collaborative demeanor tonight in accepting some positive suggestions to improve the good work that he put before us. Collaboration. We collaborated tonight. We had a good debate about this. We're all on the same page, and everyone, I think, added something to the discussion. I'm not sure if we still do it. There was a time when we had some regular contact with employers in the city of Brantford. We made site visits to them. I think we probably still do that. And I can't stress enough the importance of that. And in terms, especially of reaching out to those companies that we think may be impacted by things coming at us. And we have another one coming at us as well that we dealt with at the last planning committee that'll raise its head again, I'm sure, before too long. I guess as it stands now, the opinion of the city of Brantford is that we have our staff have supported this. Tonight, I guess we've undermined that to some extent, but our official position, I think, probably still remains that it's a development that our staff support and that the planning committee has not weighed into. And that's, the primary reason that I wanted to try and get this back on the planning committee's agenda so that the planning committee can follow the process, moot as it may be, in light of the OLT rules, to show that this council, the planning committee, this council, the community officially does not favor the development. I don't know who in the community anymore, don't know what rules OLT abides by anymore. Staff, does anyone in this community have standing to appear at that hearing? The OLT hearing? Members of the public, are they eligible to appear at the OLT?
Do we have a staff member to answer that?
Through you, Madam Chair, Michael Bradley, Commissioner of Community Development. Yeah, I believe members of the public can register once the hearing is set and the case management coordinator puts the hearing forward. Members of the citizens, the city, and the applicant can all get party status at the hearings.
And does the applicant have the right to ask for costs from those folks appearing in opposition?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe they can ask for costs. I believe it's very rare for the tribunal to award costs.
Okay, thank you. So we are doing what we can do, as Councillor Celeste said. More hands make light work. So if there are some ideas out there that don't originate at this council table, and there sure are a lot of them in this community, by all means, don't be shy. There are some positive things community members can do. Rather than simply taking the critical point of view and the uninformed point of view, as we've heard both Councillor Martin and Mayor Davis refer to tonight.
Point of clarification, please.
Yes.
I heard staff members say that I think the OLT can award cost. As I understand the changes to the legislation, the cost awarding is automatic. If you lose, you pay costs. Could we get some, before that comes to council, we get that clarified for certain so the public knows?
It has gone through some changes, Councillor. We'll get that with the other opinion too, the legal opinion we're providing. We'll include that in the memo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. There's not many of us left to speak for a second time. Mayor Davis, you've spoken twice already.
It's been amended, point of order. So I have 2 speaking opportunities after the amendment.
Is that correct?
That's
All right.
correct.
I stand corrected.
It'll be very short. I want to correct something because I made a comment that others took in certain directions. And I was detailing what happened at the June planning hearing, which was, it was like a joint request made in good faith to defer it. And I believe I'm correct. I did raise the issue as potentially 120 day beyond, but I think the hope was that a resolution might be negotiated. I don't think anybody was acting not in bad faith, and that's because we don't know what happened in July. I don't know what happened between SC Johnson and like what happened with the further discussions. So I think it might be a little unfair to the applicant to suggest that it was, didn't intend to do that, because we really don't know what happened, other than we know 6 weeks later the letter came in going to the OLT, and actually Councillor Sleff is quite correct. Even if the matter had proceeded to a full hearing before the planning committee and in front of council, depending on the decision, either SC Johnson or any other neighbors or the applicant themselves could appeal to the OLT. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, it was probably going there anyways, which is why I was saying in my second set of comments how it's really frustrating that we appear to have this power to make these zoning decisions, but the reality is we don't, and we don't make the final decisions on behalf of our community. And the more I've sat here through the more planning committees I've been through, and the more I talk to residents and understand what it is they expect the process should be, it's frustrating. I'll leave it at that.
Very good. Seeing no further speakers in the queue. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you call the vote, please?
Me, yes.
Thank you. Item 8.1 carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. All those councillors voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Sless, McCreary, Carpenter, Samwell, Van Tilburg, Hunt, Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, please note the notice of motion deadline for the next Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration meeting is this Thursday at 9:00 a.m. This meeting is now